Okay, welcome to Ask DLJ. I am DLJ. You can ask me any questions you want. This week on Twitter, I saw there was an email from the Momoclo management saying that they will not be selling merchandise at the Momoclo American Lives. And understandably, a lot of people upset about it. They can't conceive in their mind why they wouldn't do this. I think, oh, don't they know how much money they could be making? Uh, I think that was the main argument. And so here's my opinion on it. So it's maddening. It seems like such an easy concept. But I'm going to assume that most of you haven't been involved with merchandising before or been involved in some sort of business aspect. And that's not a knock against you. Please don't take this as me trying to, shove it in your face or anything. But I think there's a lot of people who don't understand the process of going behind it. And for them, it's easy to think, well, A plus B equals profit, so why don't they do it? So here's my breakdown with what little experience that I have in the field. So first off, it's a much more complicated than just saying they should bring merchandise because they'll make money. And as much as I'm sure they appreciate their fans, remember, Japanese acts coming to America is still kind of a new concept. So a lot of it has to do with Japanese management not really understanding the landscape and not knowing what will sell and what won't sell. International business is a thing in itself. I mean, people get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to understand the differences in culture and to know what is going to work here or what won't work there. So let me give you an example. I have a friend who worked for a company that manufactured shampoo, and she was having a problem breaking that type of shampoo into the Asian markets because Asians tend to have thicker, fuller, like coarse hair, and the product wasn't acclimating to the market the same way as it would here. And that's the first point, is that what works here may not work there. There are some things that they sell in Japan that are everyday run-of-the-mill thing, but it just seems completely new and interesting here. So they don't even think about bringing it here because it's like, oh, well, that's just normal, everyday goods. Why would Americans want that? And it goes the opposite way too here. Is there some stuff that they might bring here and everyone's like, well, who cares about that? So the next aspect to take into consideration is the sheer quantity involved with merchandise sales. There's a lot of upfront risks and high probability of failure. So let's play merchandise manager. Let's say you're part of the crew bringing Momoclo to America. It's your job to decide what merchandise to order and how many quantity of each. So what do you order? So for the sake of this exercise, let's say you're only bringing CDs. So I looked it up. The capacity for the Republic in Hawaii is 1,000 people. The Wiltern, 1,850, and the PlayStation Theater in New York, 2,100. So potentially, if you add all three of those together, you may have 4,950 people who may or may not buy CDs. And this number is just based off listed capacity. So the number might change depending on how they might have to configure the theater for the stage or VIP section or whatever other factors. So the question then becomes, how many do you think actually will buy a CD? Give me a guess. I'm going to let you have your time to think up a number and write it down. So I'll say 10%. I'll say that 1 in 10 people will actually purchase a CD. So out of the 4,950 people in attendance, 495 people will buy a CD. Round it up to 500. So 500 CDs. Do you know how many CDs that is? Hold on a second. So this is a box of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a box of 100 CDs. So now imagine 5 of these stacked up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you know how much that weighs? Or more importantly, how much it costs to ship? Even as a carry-on luggage, a probably overweight luggage, it's going to cost at least $50 to $75, if not more. And then keep in mind, In the case of the Momoiro Clover American tour, that's 3 flights from Japan to Hawaii, Hawaii to LA, and then from LA to New York, and even possibly a 4th from New York to Japan, bringing whatever's left over back. Now let's get into logistics. Let's talk about profit per CD. Per CD, how much do you expect to make? So this means how much you're going to sell them for minus how much they cost you to make. So let's say a CD costs $5 and you sell them for $15. You make $10 a CD. That's a nice even number to work with. If you sell every CD, and this is a huge if, you will make $5,000. Then subtract all the costs of transport or whatever other fees might come about, or taxes. Yes, taxes. Because if you were just coming into the United States with a handful of CDs, they might not notice. But when you're coming in with like 500, they're going to ask what they're being used for, whether it's promotional or business oriented. And if you're part of a large promotion like Stardust, you're going to want to do everything legit and pay taxes because, you know, lawsuits and other kind of stuff. So going by those calculations, from CD sales, you're going to estimate that you're going to make less than $5,000. So is that all worth the trouble, $5,000? It sounds like a lot for you and me, but let me pose some other questions first. 1, which CDs do you bring? Momoclo has multiple CDs. So do you just bring their newest album? Or do you bring other CDs, other singles? How many of them do you bring? Of each. 2, attendees are likely fans of the group already. How many of them already own CDs though? Can you assume that anyone really into this group has gone out and imported them? 3, we've only talked about CDs so far. So if you want to bring other types of merchandise, what do you bring and how many variations are there? For example, if you bring light sticks, well, how many versions are there? How many colors? So if you bring shirts, how many different designs do you bring? And how many sizes of each? And so on and so forth. So you sit in the office and you think, I've heard those Americans are larger than us, but how many XL t-shirts does that translate to? Do you need double X's? What does the American Momoclo fan base even look like? And then that brings up number 4. Does bringing other items influence attendees' ability to spend money? So if you're only bringing CDs, then you only have to account for one product. Bringing another product may influence a person to buy one rather than the other, or do they buy both? Because surely you can't assume that the more things you bring, the more things people will buy. Most people who are attending are going to have a budget. More choices can mean different quantities sold of different items. And how does that play a factor into all of it? Do you order less CDs then? Do you order more shirts? How does it affect each other? It's not an understandable ratio. And these are just some of the factors that I thought of off the top of my head. And so when you take all of these factors into consideration, I think it's a lot more understandable why Japanese management chooses not to deal with the merchandising side of things. It's an incredibly difficult number to hit right. If you bring too much merchandise, you're stuck with a bunch at the end. Or even worse, if you don't bring enough, let's say you sell out of most of it the first day, you feel like an idiot for the rest of the time. Either way, you have a very high chance of failure because you have to be right on the mark for it to truly be worth it. Now, there's a way around merchandising to cut out the costs and risks that would be involved. So you could have the items made locally. It would cut down on transport, possibly on costs. But then you would have to contact each place individually, negotiate deals, find the best situation for your company. This would require someone with experience in the field, or at least in the case of Japanese management, somebody with considerable English language proficiency and ability. So flip the script. If you were bringing a group to Japan, how would you even begin to start calling companies to manufacture a CD? Just even the language barrier itself makes it daunting. And now another factor, take into consideration that Stardust is a reputable, large Japanese company. They're not going to just want to put their name on whatever. Quality control is a big thing in Japan, and that's why a lot of things are handled internally, and they only work with companies that they've built a relationship and a trust with. How can you be certain that this company that you've hired in America is going to create the product that you're happy with? So now to wrap it all up, take all those points into consideration. And then take into consideration that the 3 venues, which estimate approximately 4,950 people attendance, now multiply that by $50 for a regular ticket. That equals $247,500. That is a lot nicer of a number to work with. So why not just focus on getting that number correctly? Make sure that you cut the cost of travel or hotel or expenses, however many staff you're bringing over, and selling out the venue. Make sure that you have every ticket sold. So then you wonder why Japanese management doesn't care to make money? Because there's other areas they can focus on that's way more worth their time. So that's it. Thanks for watching. So now at the end, I just want to make it clear, I'm sorry if I come off as condescending. I'm not trying to put anybody down or make fun of anybody. So as somebody who works in the business industry, it's a little bit frustrating because I see people all the time upset about this or upset about that, and they have their ideas about how simple of a problem it is. But honestly, it's never that simple. There's a lot of other factors that go in it, and I hope this has shed some light and cleared up some of the frustrations for other people. At the end of the day, people get frustrated because they wish things were a different way. And it's easy for people to automatically say, oh, well, Japanese management doesn't care about their fans, doesn't care about foreign fans, or that they only care about money. But I think it's important not to project our frustrations into other areas that may or may not be true. Yeah, it sucks that we're not getting merchandise, but I'm hoping that people can be a little bit more understanding that maybe it's not the most logical choice for them to do it. And we're still getting Momoiro Clover. They're coming to America, and we're going to see them a lot closer than most of the Japanese fans in Japan are able to. So I think merchandise is a necessary and understandable sacrifice. So again, thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, I guess I'll be looking on Twitter, or you can, I guess, message me directly and ask me stuff, and maybe I'll make a video. Bye. Check out NSK.